Hola, soy Soraya Casla, doctora en ejercicio físico oncológico y directora del programa Ejercicio y Cáncer. Tengo la suerte de estar hoy con Sport Life, aquí charlando con el doctor Valter Longo, que es bioquímico, doctor especialista en longevidad y gerontología. Debido a su libro El ayuno contra el cáncer, me he venido sin dudarlo a hacerle unas preguntas sobre cómo el ejercicio físico puede incluirse dentro de esta dieta, el ayuno, no solamente para las personas sanas, sino también para las personas con cáncer. Así que vamos, ¿cómo podemos incluir el ejercicio físico para las personas que quieran hacer la dieta del ayuno o que imita al ayuno en personas sanas?
So in healthy people, one of the things that I do, I go around the world, talk to centenarians, and I always say I rarely meet sedentary centenarians. Most of the centenarians we meet are the ones who were very active. They walked, they were shepherds, and they were physically very active, and they walked a lot, and they were exercising in different ways. They were not going jogging, but they were exercising. And so in my first book, but also in the new book, we talk about exercise, maybe 150 minutes a week of exercise, with at least about 10% of it being more strenuous exercise. That seems to be ideal. And that's just the exercise part. And another hour a day of walking is something that we recommend, and I do both, and I think everybody should do both. It's very, very important to stay physically healthy, but I think also mentally healthy, right? The exercise, but also the activity. That 1 hour a day of walking seems to be central in just feeling good and being healthy. Then cancer patients, it's more difficult. And so how do you then relate that with fasting and fasting mimicking diets? Well, if you do 12 hours of fasting, then it makes it's completely not interfering with the exercise, right? So you do exercise during the day and you do the 12 hours of fasting at night. The fasting mimicking diet instead, these 5 days done maybe three to 12 times a year. We don't recommend that people combine. It's only 3 times a year, probably not a good time to go, sprinting. And this is actually could be dangerous, right? So if you're on day 4 of the fasting mimicking diet, some people respond very well. And some people say, I feel very tired, I'm struggling to make it to midnight, So probably not a good idea during those 5 days to exercise. Interestingly, we did a clinical trial where we look at muscle strength, and we expected on day 5 of the fasting mimicking diet to people that were in the trial to be weaker, but they were not. So that was very surprising. So on day 5, the strength, the maximum strength was maintained. So that was surprising. But anyways, probably best to not combine it in normal people. Just do your exercise, and then for those 15 days a year, don't exercise. That's okay. You can be active. You can walk. You can still do 1 hour or 2 hours a day of walking, but no exercise. And then the cancer patient, for cancer patient, it gets much trickier, right? Because for cancer patient, we need to maintain the lean body mass. We need to maintain the bone density, but we need to kill or try to kill all the cancer cells. And so, then I think that for the general recommendation, the same apply, right? So when they're not doing therapy of any particular kind, I think we just talk about 150 minutes plus 1 hour a day of walking, it's fine. But now if you're doing chemotherapy, of course, and you're doing fasting mimicking diet, of course, I think you need to speak to a kinesiologist or a nutritionist or both, and just understand so it's got to be personalized, right? So you don't want somebody coming out of chemotherapy plus fasting the day after going running. It could be very dangerous, or even driving could be very dangerous, right? So yeah, there's got to be a personalization. It's perfectly fine to exercise between cycles, but as the professional needs to tell you, okay, this is probably how you're gonna do it, slowly get into it. But I think that what we're seeing with the patients, that they find the routine. They say, okay, I did chemo, I did the fasting mimicking diet, for 3 days, no way, I'm not doing anything. But on day 4, I'm strong enough and I start running, and on day 5 or 6, I run more, and then they feel really good, right? Then they feel like empowered, and they feel like, okay, it's working, everything is working, I'm strong. And I think, and that's for the sort of general physical exercise. Then in all the trials now, we're introducing weight training. And so, because of the concern of sarcopenia, cachexia by all the oncologists. And so what we have a video that the foundation has up, and anybody can look at it. It's about 20 minutes. And we developed it with some of the kinesiologists in Italy. And so during those, it's a light muscle training exercise to make sure that the fasting or the chemo or whatever other therapy does not cause loss of lean body mass. And in the trial with women with hormone therapy and breast cancer, the combination of the fasting and the hormone therapy and this training cause actually increase in lean body mass, and also increase in what's called phase angle, so the muscle function, right? They increase. Now, I think there was a big mistake that we made in that trial, and I tried to very hard to win that battle, but I lost it. And the battle was with the physicians that were dealing with the everyday diet. So we said, don't overfeed the patients with lots of proteins and lots of food between cycles because you're worried about lean body mass loss. Let's just let them keep the lean body mass with the weight training, and then let's just fight both the cancer and the muscle loss. But we lost, and so what we obtained, I think, is a worse effect on cancer, but actually these women gaining lean muscle mass. But we did not want the women to gain muscle mass, we just wanted them to not lose muscle mass, right? So these type of things I think are this could be the difference between life and death, right? So I think that if the amino acids level, the sugar level, is so high, and the insulin level, now you have high IGF-1, high insulin, high amino acid, high sugar. This is definitely an environment that the cancer cells or any cancer cell will love. Right now, some cancer cells may not be affected by it, but in general, it's a very bad idea. And if you think about it, it's very surprising that we lost that, the battle, and it tells you how we still unsophisticated we are in the intervention. And so, what was the problem? There was not an FDA approval on that particular methodology, but it was very obvious. It was very obvious that's what we need to do. Why would you want women to gain lean body mass, right? And when we tell you that all these factors are gonna help the cancer. Now, are we sure they help the cancer? We're pretty sure. Do we have a demonstration for it? We don't. But I mean, if you wait for demonstration, then maybe the patient dies, right? So there was no negatives in doing it, and lots of potential negatives in doing what we eventually did. And I think the patient were fed 1.5 grams of proteins per kilogram of body mass per day. So a ton of proteins, and that was a problem, right? So this is just to tell you how this team of molecular biologists, nutritionists, physicians, oncologists need to be together and need to really listen, right? And everybody's paying attention. So we were, of course, listening to the oncologist, and we did not, if the oncologist said, this is gonna put my patient's life in danger, we will not try to override. But that was not the argument. The argument was like, well, we think we should give this patient lots of proteins, so we're gonna do that. And that's it, so yeah.